So here's an interesting one about a young guy who shares a story of how his older brother gave some good, serious R-pill type of advice after the first time he had his heart broken when he was like 17 years old. And ever since then, he's been applying these teachings where essentially to treat gals exactly how they're treating you. Match and mirror. So if they're being good to you, you be good to them back. However, if they're pulling BS, if, say, she's pulling away, you pull away. If she's backing away on affection towards you, you back away on affection, that type of thing. And it's had amazing results. The problem is he's been taking this to a whole new level of matching and mirroring her behavior. And so there were times when he should just simply broken up with her because she was crossing the boundaries. He was pulling stuff too, which in my opinion was he could have just ended it with her. And while he did what he wanted, it definitely leads to not a good situation relationship-wise. So that'd be an entertaining and good one to go over to show you what, making the point you match and mirror the girl's behavior. But there's also a point you must drop boundaries and break up with her and move on. But that'd be a good education tool here. Good teaching tool. Title: My older brother's so-called toxic relationship advice has saved me from countless heartbreaks. And a shout out to Joseph for sending me the story. This guy says, my serious relationship, I was 17, ended after my girlfriend cheated on me with a coke dealer and got pregnant. Well, you know what? Maybe he saved you a lot of future pain. She was 2 years older than I was, and we lost our virginity to each other. I was head over heels in love. She had me wrapped around her little finger and also had a huge mental advantage due to the age difference. 2 years is a big deal when you're 17. She fell in love and cheated with and got pregnant with a coke dealer. And I don't mean Coca-Cola. Well, you know what? Tough shit. It was after that heartbreak, or after that breakup, that my brother sat me down for a heart-to-heart. His advice essentially boiled down to this: reflect women's actions and behave it right back to them. It's not particularly groundbreaking stuff, but it's worked like a charm so far. And I mean, it really works really effing well. Well, I agree with the brother to a point. Yeah, you match her behavior, how she's treating you, how she's acting towards you, all that. But then if it goes to a certain point, you just break up with him. But he's young and he's learning. It says, if subsequent girlfriend situationships hung out around guys I was uncomfortable with, I would do the same and start spending more time with female friends that I knew were interested in me. If they went out to a party with their single friends a little too much, I would do the exact same thing and come home at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, coked out of my skull sometimes. Smack! Should be doing drugs, you jackass. You lost the first girlfriend to a guy who did drugs. Now you're going to do it? Grow up. But I never cheated. Every behavior they exhibited that I was uncomfortable with, instead of talking about how it made me feel, blah, 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 I would just do the same thing right back to them. Granted, it's very immature and doesn't resolve the underlying issues as to why they did those things, but it nips the shit in the bud. Right. Now, if she's going out and hanging out with other dudes and you have a problem with it, you need to establish boundaries early on in the relationship, saying, if we're going to be together, there's no dudes you're hanging out with and stuff like that. And if she doesn't like it, she can take a hike. But in this situation, because he's young and he's learning, he is seeing what happens when he matches the behavior. And mentioning here about he should talk about how he feels, well, there's a difference between establishing boundaries and talking to your girl and say, what you're doing is making me feel sad or making me feel this. She'll interpret that as you being a pussy. Okay? There's communication, but there's ways how you do the communication. Right? But in this, I like he's doing the same thing right back to them, and watch what happens. I went to a house party with my current girlfriend recently and noticed her being a little too flirty with someone for my liking. So I basically mirrored what she did. I even disappeared with the girl I was talking to for 10 to 20 minutes. We just went outside to smoke. Nothing happened, but it caused my girlfriend to almost have a meltdown and leave the party crying. Again, you could establish boundaries, but the point here is this. She's getting flirty with some guy, which would have been a deal breaker for me, and we're like, we're done. But he decided to go talk to some other girl and disappear, and immediately she's having a meltdown. Matching and mirror her behavior. It's all about how you treat them. He is treating her the way the bad boys do. Whenever she gets all hormonal and starts being distant and a little cold, I do it right back to her. And she drops the BS attitude and just comes right out and says what's on her mind. See? And this could be done in a situation in any relationship. You don't have to communicate too much about this one. If she's if she's texting you 5 times a day on days you don't get together, that doesn't mean you go text her 5 times a day. You back off. Let her come to you. And oftentimes she's just testing you to see how into her you are. Like, if she backs away, is he going to chase after me? If you're on the couch watching Netflix and she can't keep her hands off you to the point that she's being annoying about it, and then the next day she's at your house and she won't even touch you and she's sitting there with her arms folded, that doesn't mean you go touching her and cuddling up to her and snuggling, chasing after her. Nope, you just hang back. You match and mirror the behavior. Otherwise, what happens to the guys that chase after them? The mature and adult thing would be to voice my concern, but historically it's never seemed to resolve things. I feel like it also completely swings the power dynamic within the relationship. My brother's advice completely bypasses all that talking about and puts my girlfriend and exes in my shoes, so to speak. And in a way, they really seem to grasp. I can see that doing this tormented them, but his advice is too practical and effective to simply disregard and do things the right way. And when he said the right way, means in quotes like every other nice guy out there. Maybe it'll be different when I'm no longer in my 20s and the women I date are mature enough to recognize there are certain behaviors just aren't acceptable within the context of a serious relationship. Who knows? In other words, when I get older, 30s and 40s and up, then the women will behave differently, won't act that way. Wrong. No, they're still going to do things that are going to get on your nerves and test you and test your boundaries and everything. And that's not going to change with age, my friend. You know, I only hope that you in the beginning establish boundaries. And when they cross them, like flirting with other guys or her being out all night with a girlfriend, you have no idea where she is, and that type of thing, you just establish that early on that's not cool with a relationship with you. And you break up with her accordingly. But the other smaller things, you match and mirror, and it's amazing the result. He also says there seems to be some wild speculation going on in the comments. But let me clarify. If my girl I'm with wants to have a constructive conversation and communicate openly, then I'm more than happy to do that. The only time my brother's advice comes into play is when my current girlfriend or exes were displaying behavior I wasn't happy about. I essentially mirror back any behavior, whether it's good or bad. If you're good to men, then that's all gravy. But if you act like an a-hole, you'll get it back in spades. So I agree a lot with what this dude has to say, what he's learned from his brother. But just the only difference is when there's you set boundaries early on, and if they're crossed, break up with her and move on. But all the other things, you match and mirror. And if you have a conversation about things, because communication is important, you have it in a certain way, but don't say, this makes me feel sad. They're going to be like, you're a fucking pussy. I'm not going to be sucking your you-know-what later. You talk like this, Mr. Rogers. Now, of course, the comment section is tearing him apart. Mainly women about how his behavior, how toxic he is, and everything. But of course, well, people don't like reality. And I'll read a few. One guy says, yeah, no thanks. You are a walking red flag. This kind of man is exact reason why women go insane. You go into the relationship and treat them like dirt, and the next relationship a girl is in, she is guarded and anxious and self-destructive. You are making women insecure. How do you feel about that? How about the women that behave that way towards the guy? And they're not making the guy insecure. They're not hurting him. But nobody's talking about that, but it's always the guy's fault here. And oh, by the way, there's also guys that comment here, and they're probably the guys that hate the bad boys that do this. Another one. This is some of the most immature relationship behavior I've read on here. I can't imagine ever being in a relationship with someone who behaved this way. The fact that you admit it doesn't resolve anything and is immature. But continue to behave this way really shows your level of immaturity. Look, the guy is just matching her behavior, and I agree he should have just broken up with her at some point. But still, at the end of the day, she brought this crap on herself. Another one. All you have to do is set standards and boundaries. If they don't follow them, then leave. If they do, that's someone you're on the same page with and can actually have a long-term relationship with. Your way works until you actually meet the right person who you think you're emotionally immature and distance themselves from you without any explanation, since you won't talk about that kind of stuff anyway. So, I know, again, you establish boundaries early on, but if she's backing away from you, like I said, like from the texting one day, all of a sudden, one day she's bombarding you, and the next day you don't hear from her at all, that doesn't mean you bombard her, because she's probably testing you. Okay? You match and mirror. That's not toxic and evil, but a lot of guys and gals don't want to hear reality. Okay? Also, like I said, back on the couch, and she's all touchy-feely with you one night because she can't keep her hands off you, and the next day she's the exact opposite, doesn't mean you then flip the script and chase after her, because it's all about chasing, and women like guys that they have to work to get, okay? And oftentimes they hold back deliberately on purpose, as this guy's doing things on purpose, to see what the guy will do. So he's only matching the behavior that a lot of gals do on purpose. but a lot of people don't want to hear that. Another one says here, finally we got somebody defending him. It says, I don't think it's toxic behavior, it's just the way they are. Got news for you. It doesn't get better the older you get and still works like a charm. What you learn is to be more sophisticated, exacting pain, which works better to keep them from going if they're off the ranch. If they do get off the trail, you're in a good mental state to break things off and next the shit out of them. You know what is toxic? Being a rug and chasing after someone that doesn't respect you. Right. Women don't respect weakness. And a lot of times if guys start talking about their feelings and how this makes me feel, they're going to interpret that as weakness. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. I wish women would get with it and talk, but they don't. Men do. It works better to imagine women like your teenage daughter that you love unconditionally, but you're not going to put up with their BS or change your stance because of tantrums. Also, they are very trainable like dogs. Oh, that's going to piss some people off. This will get me super downvoted, but expand on what you're doing to where you are rewarding good behavior and punishing bad ones, and she will be a model girlfriend. Not only that, I found they appreciate it and like it. Women don't want you to put up with their BS. That's toxic. Standing your ground and showing the correct path is actually very healthy. Right, putting up with bad behavior is toxic. But this narrative is the guy has to put up with everything and throw his carpet in the water for her to walk over and all that other gentlemanly stuff. And the guys that do all that and put up with the crap are the ones that are treated like dog crap. So anyhow, I agree with a lot of the matching and mirror element there, and it's a good teaching tool and a good example. But I will stand by my stance in the beginning. You got to establish boundaries and enforce them. Save yourself a lot of drama. But anyhow, perfect example of the gals and what works and what doesn't.